Chapter 20 of She and Allan. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Lars Rolander. She and Allan by H. Rider Haggard. Chapter 20. The Gate of Death. Before turning in I examined these wounded men for myself. The truth is that I was anxious to learn their exact condition in order that I might take an estimate as to when it would be possible for us to leave this valley or crater bottom of Kôr, of which I was heartily tired. Who could desire to stay in a place where he had not only been involved in a deal of hard, doubtful and very dangerous fighting, from which all personal interest was absent, but where also he was meshed in a perfect spider's web of bewilderment and exposed to continual insult into the bargain? For that is what it came to. This Ayesha took every opportunity to jeer at and affront me. And why? Just because I had conceived doubts, which somehow she discovered, of the amazing tales with which it had amused her to stuff me, as a farmer's wife does a turkey poult with meal pellets. How could she expect me, a man, after all of some experience, to believe such lies, which not half an hour before, in the coolest possible fashion, she had herself admitted to be lies and nothing else, told for the mere pleasure of romancing? The immortal Rezu, for instance, who had drunk of the cup of life for some such rubbish, now turned out to be nothing but a brawny savage descended from generations of chiefs also called Rezu. Moreover, the immemorial Ayesha, who also had drunk of cups of life and, according to her first story, had lived in this place for thousands of years, had come here with a mother, who filled the same mystic rôle before her, for the benefit of an extremely gloomy and disagreeable tribe of Semitic savages. Yet she was cross with me because I had not swallowed her crude and indigestible mixture of fable and philosophy without a moment's question. At least I supposed that this was the reason, though another possible explanation did come into my mind. I had refused to be duly overcome by her charms, not because I was unimpressed, for who could be, having looked upon that blinding beauty even for a moment, but rather because after sundry experiences I had at last attained to some power of judgment and learned what it is best to leave alone. Perhaps this had annoyed her, especially as no white man seemed to have come her way for a long while, and the fabulous Kallikrates had not put in his promised appearance. Also it was unfortunate that in one way or another, how did she do it, I wondered, she had interpreted Umslopogaas' question to me about marrying her, and my compromising reply. Not that for one moment, as I saw very clearly, did she wish to marry me, but that fact intuition suggested to my mind did not the least prevent her from being angry because I shared her views upon this important subject. Oh, the whole thing was a bore, and the sooner I saw the last of that veiled lady and the interesting but wearisome ruins in which she dwelt, the better I should be pleased, although apparently I must trek homewards with a poor young woman who was out of her mind, leaving the bones of her unfortunate father behind me. I admitted to myself, however, that there were consolations in the fact that Providence had thus decreed, for Robertson, since he gave up drink, had not been a cheerful companion, and two mad people would really have been more than I could manage. To return. For these reasons I examined the two wounded Zulus with considerable anxiety, only to discover another instance of the chicanery which it amused this Ayesha to play off upon me. For what did I find? That they were practically well. Their hurts, which had never been serious, had healed wonderfully in that pure air, as those of savages have a way of doing, and they told me themselves that they felt quite strong again. Yet with colossal impudence Ayesha had managed to suggest to my mind that she was going to work some remarkable cure upon them, who were already cured. Well, it was of a piece with the rest of her conduct, and there was nothing to do except go to bed, which I did with much gratitude that my resting place that night was not of another sort. The last thing I remember was wondering how on earth Ayesha appeared and disappeared in the course of that battle, a problem as to which I could find no solution, though, as in the case of the others, I was sure that one would occur to me in course of time. I slept like a top, so soundly indeed that I think there was some kind of soporific in the pick me up which looked like sherry, especially as the others who had drunk of it also passed an excellent night. About 10 o'clock on the following morning I awoke, feeling particularly well and quite as though I had been enjoying a week at the seaside instead of my recent adventures, which included an abominable battle and some agonizing moments during which I thought that my number was up upon the board of destiny. I spent the most of that day longing about, eating, talking over the details of the battle with Umslopogaas and the Zulus, and smoking more than usual. I forgot to say that these Amahagers grew some capital tobacco of which I had obtained a supply, although like most Africans they only used it in the shape of snuff. The truth was that after all my marvellings and acute anxieties, also mental and physical exertions, I felt like the housemaid who caused to be cut upon her tombstone that she had gone to a better land where her ambition was to do nothing for ever and ever. I just wanted to be completely idle and vacuous minded for at least a month. But as I knew that all I could expect in that line was a single bank holiday, like a city clerk on the spree, of it I determined to make the most. The result was that before the evening I felt very bored indeed. I had gone to look at Inez, who was still fast asleep, as Ayesha said would be the case, but whose features seemed to have plumped up considerably. The reason of this I gathered from her Amahagger nurses was that at certain intervals she had awakened sufficiently to swallow considerable quantities of milk, or rather cream, which I hoped would not make her ill. I had chatted with the wounded Zulus who were now walking about, more bored even than I was myself, and heaping maledictions on their ancestral spirits because they had not been well enough to take part in the battle against Rezu. I even took a little stroll to look for Hans, who had vanished in his mysterious fashion, but the afternoon was so hot and oppressive with coming thunder that soon I came back again and fell into a variety of reflections that I need not detail. While I was thus engaged and meditating, not without uneasiness, upon the ordeal that lay before me after sunset, for I felt sure that it would be an ordeal, Hans appeared and said that the Amahagger impi or army was gathered on that spot where I had been elected to the proud position of their general. He added that he believed, how he got this information I do not know, that the White Lady was going to hold a review of them and give them the rewards that they had earned in the battle. Hearing this, Umslopogaas and the other Zulus said that they would like to see this review if I would accompany them. Although I did not want to go, nor indeed desired ever to look at another Amahagger, I consented to save the trouble of argument, on condition that we should do so from a distance. So, including the wounded men, we strolled off and presently came to the crumbled wall of the old city, beyond which lay the great moat, now dry, that once had encircled it with water. Here on the top of this wall we sat down where we could see without being seen, and observed the Amahagger companies considerably reduced during the battle, being marshalled